Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, All Things Business. We got an exciting call tonight. We're live. We appreciate every one of you on the call. We want to thank you. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. And matter of fact, text a couple people because I want to introduce your lady. Is amazing. Today we're into, this is season number 4, podcast number 3. And we got a good one for you today. You're talking about high-end jewelry and watches. This lady is professional in that arena. Dear friend of mine, I've been known for many, many years. Our kids went to high school together, private school here. She had 2 kids in high school at the Meadows here in Vegas. I had 2. And her husband and I became good friends because we take the bus, and he'd be the only guy beside me on the bus, and all the women, because most of the men had to work. And we became dear friends and got to know the family. We're very close. And what I'd like to do now is introduce our guest speaker tonight, Miss Laurie Holbrook. Laurie, are you there?
I am. How are you?
Good, dear. Good, dear. We're so glad to see you tonight.
Thank you. It's so glad to see you as well. Or I'm glad to see you as well.
Well, let's do this. Let's start off by giving everybody out there around the world that's tuning in a little bit of background and how you got started and a little bit about yourself and where you grew up. And we'll take a minute there and then go into how you got into the high watch industry.
So I grew up in Minneapolis. I'm actually home right now in the middle of the city, which looks like I'm at the woods. It's absolutely beautiful here. And where do you want me to start? So I grew up as a dancer. Like I started when I was 4. And then I went into what they call show unit, where we would go perform for like nursing homes and different places. From there, went to being a dance instructor. From there, I was in a band. Do you know the song Funky Town? Have you heard of Funky Town? I'll Take You To.
Yeah, Funky. You in that band?
I was.
Wow, there was something new about you I didn't know all these years.
Yeah, and I went to school with Prince too, and we have the same birthday.
Really, you know, his place, Paisley Park, is amazing. I took a tour up there, and I was blown away. That place is amazing.
It is amazing. He went to the same high school. He was 2 years older than me. Really, really low-key gentleman. Later on in life, I worked at a nightclub, and one that he frequented, not as a like a partaker in alcohol, but as like a performer. And with the band, with Funky Town, I worked with Sheila E., the Commodores, the Jets, Sade, some pretty big names. Yeah,
Sade, huh?
Sade, she's beautiful, and her music is amazing.
Dog right, she's beautiful. Matter of fact, my cohort partner, Mr. Clemens, they used to call him Prince in his younger age. I don't know if he could dance like Prince, but that's what they used to call him, Prince. So you left Minnesota, went out to California. What got you to Vegas?
No, I went to California. You're right. You're on track. I met a guy who I'm married to today, 35 years later. He came to visit Minneapolis. He lived in California, flew to LA. He wined and dined me for a couple of weeks. 6 months later, we got married. Can you believe that?
Wow. Oh, so he's romantic. Okay, kind of guy. Okay, I've been knowing her husband. I know her husband real good. That's why I say these things to kind of get away with it. And by the way, I want to thank Don Holbrook, who's also on the call tonight. I also want to thank Miss Renata Crummer up in New York City. She just got back celebrating her 32nd anniversary. Miss Rutherford, thank you for calling in today on the call tonight. You know, I want to kind of go into, so you guys, you met, you got married, kind of take us from there. Then you had 2 beautiful sons. Your kids and my kids all went to high school together. And so take us in, how do you got into the watch business?
So I was a private jeweler. I went back to school at the age of 36 and got a bachelor's degree and became a gemologist, a master appraiser. Like I was telling you, I think one time when we were out together, I can actually tell where a stone comes from by the striations of it. That's how in-depth we are with gemology and appraisal services. So when I was, from California, kind of lived a few places, ended up in Las Vegas, was still doing private, jewelry work and making rings, custom things for clients. And there was a job at the Wynn, and my girlfriend said, you should apply. So I did, and I went there. And when I got there, they had filled the position. So I was like, well, why am I here? She said, I think I have another place you might do really well at, which was the company I work for now, which is luxury watches.
Yes.
And so I applied. I knew nothing about watches, nothing at all. But I knew sales, and I knew that if you know sales, it doesn't matter what you sell. Just educate yourself on it and move forward.
Wow. Let me ask you this. That's good. So let me ask you this. In the beginning, because you went from jewelry, diamonds, and
Mhm.
what have you,
Right.
into watches. What's some of the biggest challenges you have when you crossed over from, nice diamonds into watches? What challenges did you come up with or have?
So jewelry is all about like your diamonds and your gemstones, as we talked about, very sparkly, very pretty, comes in gold, right? Platinum. When you get into watches, it's a much bigger arena of complications. It's no longer jewelry. It has more to do with what the watch can do for you, meaning if
Hmm.
it's manual, if it's automatic, does it have a calendar, does it have a date, why do you want it? They become almost like a piece of history within your family. Like my
Yeah.
father has watches that are 70 years old that he's going to leave to my sons one day. Um, and I always say, if a watch could talk, it would be amazing. Like all the journeys it's been through.
That's so true. That's so true. It's amazing. So let's look at, so you got into jewelry and then went into watches.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you build your clientele up when you got into the watch business? Just be an interesting story, I'm sure.
Well, that was difficult, right? Because I was mainly marketing to women at the time for the jewelry.
Yeah.
Now I'm marketing to men. So I actually pulled Rolodex of old boyfriends. Shh, don't tell my husband.
He's already listening. He probably already knows that.
I don't know that I ever shared that secret. But no, I just pulled up like everybody that I knew. I worked at the Wynn, so we could see two clients in a day and sell a watch. Where when I moved over to Caesar's Palace, I would see 20 clients in a day, and I'd be lucky if I sold a watch, right? Because it was two different clientele. And the timepieces I work with start at 8,000 and go to 3 million. So you have a specific clientele that comes in looking for that. And at the time at the Win, it delivered it. And we've
So
talked. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. I'm sorry. So the
No,
watches started off at 80,000 and went up to 3 million at the second location.
8,000.
Oh, 8,000. I'm sorry. Okay.
8,000. And
Okay.
then up to 3 million. And it no longer becomes the price of the watch when you're in sales. It has to do with providing the client with what they want, right?
Right.
Sometimes they come in, you don't know their budget. He can be wearing, I had one client wearing a flannel shirt, tennis shoes, and jeans, wanted to see a $400,000 watch in the window. I took it out, I showed it to him. He's like, I actually have that watch on order somewhere else. And I was just like, oh, like, you know what I mean? You can't even take a look at what they're wearing, because the most simple dressed people are the ones that actually come in and have the means to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I always said real money is quiet.
Yes.
Real money is quiet. You can't tell because they're trying to fit in. I always call it trying to fit in. I
Hmm.
remember when I bought the limos, that guy didn't. Well, anyway, you just want to. Guy saw me in jeans and he prejudged me. I bought both cars that day, so I totally understand it. So give
So
us an idea, huh?
I did I want to share, I prejudged one time. So at the Wynn, they have a spa, and this woman came in with a robe and slippers on. And I was like, so I kind of ignored her, and I shouldn't have, because she came back later and bought a $30,000 watch. I learned my lesson. Never do that again.
So give us an idea. One of the first watches you sold, what kind of price range was that in, and how did you feel after you did the first watch sale?
Sure. So when I started, it took me about 10 days to get my first sale. I was nervous, of course. And this gentleman walked in, he bought, it was 7,000, I'm sorry, 17,500. But what had happened right before that, Al, was I saw 300,000 on my computer screen on my closing report. And I said to my boss, what does that mean? And he's like, that's how much you have to sell this month. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like 300,000. So right away, I did the math. I was like, all right, if I average 10,000 a day and I sell 30 watches, I'll hit my goal. So I never
Nice.
looked at the price. I never looked at the price. Like if you walked in, Al, and you like something over here for 8,000, but then over here you like something, the other client likes it for 50. I'm going to sell you what you like. I can't look
That's
at the numbers, because once you do, you'll fail.
that makes sense because then you're trying to get them over to the 50 rather than the 8,000 because you
And
saw the price tag.
by the way, I have a client, his first watch he bought from me was $12,000 or $13,000. And I think he educated me more. I listened. I mean, I really do. He educated me a lot. This was in the beginning. He has since bought 14 watches from me.
Wow. And what span would you say? A couple years, 2 years, 3 years?
Eight.
In
8
8 years?
Mm-hmm.
14 watches in 8 years.
And I'm not the only brand he buys. He buys multiple brands, but he's a very educated, astute businessman, entrepreneur, self-made. He knows what he wants. I can call him and say, I think you should get this. He'd say, Laurie, I know what I want, and I'll let you know when I'm ready. So I never, ever push. I'm not pushy.
Well, that clientele you don't push. I mean, they know what they want. I mean, I've had several watches. Matter of fact, tonight I thought I'd put on something special, so I talked to you tonight.
Nice.
And the other day I had on last time we talked, I had a Patek Philippe on. Today I've got an AP Royal Oak on.
Royal Oak.
Yeah, Royal Oak. So I was so funny. I was in the line the other day. The guy walked and said, "Oh, that's a Royal Oak." I go, "Yeah, because it says something without saying something, And being a collector myself and changing and switching and selling watches can make a lot of money, and people don't realize that's a different clientele of people. But as an investor, buying the right watch at the right price and it's sitting on it for a while, you can make some really good returns, real good money on watches.
It's actually, it's considered a commodity, right? So a lot of my clients, while they're watch collectors, they look at that as an investment as well.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah. I'm over smiling because your husband, he had to chime in. He had to say something. So I'm gonna put this question out there. He said, "Oh my God, I'm gonna do it anyway because I'll probably see him tomorrow. We're supposed to have breakfast on Saturday." But he said, "Ask her how many old boyfriends bought a watch just like her. They're out of their league." Can we have some fun?
Yeah, we can have some fun. So none of my old boyfriends stepped up and bought a watch, okay? And I dated like an NFL player and a basketball player, you name it. None of them stepped up, but he has a watch of ours. So that's why we've been married 35 years, Al.
Yeah, I know. I love you guys. And his comment was just like her. They're out of their league. He had to chime in.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
By the way, everybody, come back next week. We're going to have him on next week. Don Holbrook, who's an author and also editor and also does screenplays for Hollywood. So we'll have him on next week. And he got a couple
he's a character, right? He's a character.
He's a character. Yeah, he's a character. So with that said, let's move on to the next question. All these years you've been buying and selling watches. Tell us, you told me the other day you sold a watch for $1 million.
Yes, that was a couple years in. It was pretty exciting. I was at the Wynn, and a gentleman that I knew brought in another gentleman, and we sat, and I didn't know who this guy was, and he asked to see this particular watch. I happened to have it. Not normally do I have $1 million sitting in the showcase. And he looked at it and he said, I'll take it. And you should you can't even act surprised. You have to just kind of go, okay. And then you go around the back of the corner and you're like, yes. And then you come back around and go, how would you like to pay for that? And one time this guy bought 500 from me. And he said, can I use your guard for a minute? Well, I didn't know what he meant. He brought back 500,000 in cash. So I had to lock the doors and I had to literally count 500 through the machine. Crazy money.
Now you had a guy that came with $500,000 cash.
Promise you, swear.
Now I know you're telling the truth because I know you. So from the time he left the store, the time he brought the $500,000 cash in, how long was that? It took me an hour. It took me an hour to count the cash. No, what I mean by that, when he left the store, the time he came back, what was it? Was it 30 minutes later, an hour later?
Oh, 1 hour. 1 hour.
1 hour later with cash. Mm-hmm. And he asked you to take your security with him.
Well, he wasn't supposed to, so don't tell anybody that happened.
I won't tell anybody.
I just thought he was gonna go upstairs and get the money. No, he was at a different hotel. So then I had to find my security guard. I'm like, you got to get back here. In the meantime, I got another security guard. But yeah, that was a funny story because I didn't know. And then I had to lock the door because, you got all this cash. And then I put it in the safe and I sold him the watch and away he went. But yeah, that was a crazy story.
Did you at least gift wrapped it for him? Or you wore it out?
Yeah, I gift wrapped it for him for sure. I think he had 2 watches, actually. I think there was 2.
Wow. I remember the first time I bought a watch over $25,000. I was scared to wear it on this arm. I wore it on this arm. And when I shake your hand, I wouldn't shake your hand with the watch. I would shake your hand with this hand because it didn't have a watch in it. My hand was in the pocket. It was psychological, folks. So psychological, a lot of times we do that until we get accustomed to it. Now it's no big thing. But back then when I first bought one, I mean, I bought watches before, but when I bought the first 25,000 above watch, it was a little bit, yeah. So let's go back to the $1 million. How did you guy pay for the $1 million watch? Tell us that story.
He actually paid cash as well. That was a little bit different. I think I mentioned to you, he was a prince. And yeah,
he was okay. Let's go back. Everybody, let you know the guy that came in and spent $1 million was a prince. Okay, go ahead.
Not prince, but he was a prince.
Yeah, he was a prince. Yes. He came in with cash.
He didn't come in with cash when he first saw the watch, but he did come back with cash and pay for it. And it wasn't him that came back with cash, by the way. It was his assistant.
His assistant with cash, $1 million cash.
Yes.
With a briefcase. Yeah, what a commission that was. A good day.
It was a good day. It was a good day. It was a good day. But like I was saying before, and if anybody has a takeaway from this, you can never look at the number, right? You have to just sell, and then the numbers add up. Like, you have 300,000 a month goal. One month you sell 400,000. Maybe the next month you only sell 2, but it all accumulates and you end up making it. You just sell.
Yeah. You don't know at that point. You don't have to push them. Just answer questions. They know what they want. They see this. I want to see this, because they're very particular at that level. They're not. You don't have to push them. Matter of fact, when you push them, it kind of ticks them off and turn them off a little bit, doesn't it?
Right. It does. 100%.
Hey, I want to thank Mr. Payon out there in Japan chiming in today. Mr. Payon, how you doing, sir? Thank you for being on the call. Let's see. In Japan, it's probably like about 11 at night or something. But thank you for chiming in Japan. Thank you. So let's move on to the next one. So, on the average watches you sell, would you say average? What kind of price range would you say? And I know it's hard to say average. You sell more watches in what price range would you say?
So, our prices went up recently in watches and most watch brands across the country. My bread and butter is 12 to 25,000.
Okay, 12 to 25,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's like, I don't want, and when I say it's average, because my husband will say to me, what'd you sell today? And I go, I didn't sell a very expensive one today. I sold 12,000. And he's just like, well, that's expensive, right? But it's all relative.
It is relative. It is relative.
And then,
go ahead.
And then I'll say, well, and so sometimes you can't, people out there, if you're in the watch, if you like watches, you can't always get that watch within the next month or in the next, 2 months. Yeah. So you'll have people, I have a couple gentlemen that are waiting on a $78,000 watch, each one of them, $78,000. And I take deposits, or I take a full, remittance. And they know they have to wait. It's not a game. They are all handmade in Switzerland, so it takes time. Yep. There's well, I shouldn't say anything negative about another watch brand, but there is a watch brand that does play games, in my opinion. But we don't. We're producing them handmade and then giving them away. I mean, not giving them away.
You said the watch was 80,000. You said
80,000.
Because a lot of times people don't realize when you buy certain watches, you may not have them in inventory, or it may in another store, or it may take a while to make the watch. Right. But by the time you put the down payment and get the watch, it could be 6 months, a year. But it's always worth the wait, because most of those watches by that time have gone up.
They have gone up, and you do pick up equity. Lately, that's been happening to a bunch of my clients. They've been picking up equity because they've had to wait a little bit.
Yeah, and I noticed where the market is changing drastically around the world. There's the haves and have-nots, and it's getting smaller with the have-nots. But also the ones who have, they're out buying. And I know for a lot of people that's listening to the conversation today from around the world, you scratch your head like, really, people? Yeah, there's people out there to this day buying high-end watches. Trust me, I mean, still buying them. Matter of fact, a watch is more like an investment, a great way to put your money, and it goes up in value. It's like gold and silver; it goes up.
It does.
Especially if you buy the right one. Wouldn't you say?
I do. Yeah, they do go up, and some brands go up more. It depends on the watch. It depends on the complication. It depends on how limited it is. If I have a watch that we're only creating 10 of, in a couple of years, that watch definitely has gone up, right? And it's supply and demand. Yeah. I find a lot of my clients are car collectors. If you think about it, they're very, the car's mechanical, the watch is mechanical. There's a lot of components in a watch, and so I have a lot of car collectors that are clients of mine.
I remember I had about 9 cars in my collection. The problem is I kept them in storage. When I want to take them out on a holiday, they run like 4 blocks and they quit. And I got like, dang it, I'm tired of this stuff. Every time that's messed the whole holiday up. So that's why
you have to use it. You have to use it or lose it, right? I mean, and that's the same thing too with watches. You have to service them. You have to, it's like a car, right? You send them in every 5 or 8 years. Cars a little bit sooner, but that's what you do to keep them going. And if you keep doing that, I have clients that have watches over 100 years old that they still work, you know? So you just
quality.
Quality.
I got so sick of that. I said, I'm getting ready to car collection. I'm going to do a watch collection. And that's when I was wanting to watch collection. And then I was up to about, I don't know, maybe almost a dozen. And the price that I paid for them and what I got rid of them for, and then some of them I traded in for others, or used it for down payment on a higher end watch. And there's another market out there. And that's why I want her on the call tonight, guys, and ladies around the world, because this is also a part of all things business. There's certain people that live above and beyond the poverty level of people. When things are getting tight, there's people like that that got the money to buy high-end watches because it's an investment, just like buying crypto or buying a real estate deal or buying whatever. It's an investment, an investment. So give us an idea of watch that you sold and maybe resold again later. Has that happened to you as well? You sold a watch to somebody and the price
normally
jumped?
Yeah. Oh, you mean like, okay, I think I understand. You mean like if I sold a watch and then somebody came to buy that watch a little bit later, did the price go up?
Yes.
Yes, that has happened.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you what's wonderful too about the company I work for is if the price goes up, and they've already got the deposit, they don't charge them the higher price. They keep it locked in where they locked it in.
No, that's called integrity. Yeah, that's so true.
That is integrity. Exactly.
Yeah. And let me ask you this question. I don't know if it happens quite often. I doubt it in the high-end watch business, but have people put deposits down and later change their mind, and then somebody else would come buy it at a higher price because the price went up? Yeah.
So that'll happen. So let's say, Al, you put down a deposit on a watch today, and you got tired of waiting. It's been 4 months, but it's still going to be 2 more. You say, Laurie, I want to cancel. Somebody comes along and wants that watch. Then they pay the price that it's gone up. But that's out of my, that's just what happens, right, in the market. Yeah. Now, it could go the other way. It could have gone down, and then they get a better deal. Hardly does that happen, but it can.
Yeah, very rarely does that happen. Let me ask you this. Do I get my deposit back if I choose to change my mind? Of course you do.
But guess what? I'll talk you into something else.
Well, since we don't have that one, then what about this one?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I understand you don't want to wait. So, and I just did this a couple of days ago. The guy had to wait 3 months. He didn't want to wait. So then I introduced him to something else, same price, and he bought it and left with it 2 days later.
Love it.
So you have to be able to rebuttal, bring them back around, say, well, you like the brand to begin with. Let's find you something else.
Yeah, that won't work. Let's find something else in here. So spend, $40,000. I got one over for $65,000. That's just as nice. A little more, but a little upsell there. Let me ask you a question. What's the one thing you wish you had known when you, now looking back in your career, how many years you've been selling high-end watches?
It'll be 13 November 5th. And I thought I was going to work 2 years. Where I got that from, I don't know. But here I am 13 years later because I love what I do. All right.
What's one thing now that you wish you knew back then 13 years ago?
I wish I would have gone bigger. Meaning, I told you, I felt like if I sold 10,000 a day, I would be successful. I kind of wish at times I would have maybe tried to push a little higher. I think I probably could have gotten it. I played it a little safe. But I think playing it safe, also people trusted me because I didn't push them into something bigger and better. And they came back. I have clients that have bought 14 watches, 8 watches, 10 watches. They've been with me for the last, 8 or 10 years. And I'm not the only brand. They have other brands. I happen to know two or three of my collectors are in the upwards of 60 watches. And I know people think that's crazy, what they can and they do. And it's a commodity and they like what they have. And they switch them out and they wear them. It's not obscene. It's what they like to collect.
Yeah. And not only that, if times get tough, you can cross the border with your watch collection on and nobody's going to stop you. You can go sell it in another country. People don't realize That's another avenue. Then, gold and silver and diamonds, same thing. But here again, a lot of people. And the reason why we're doing this tonight, I want to give you guys uplift your way of thinking about investments, because watch is an investment, especially the right type of watches.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it in your business to be a networking on your entrepreneur journey? What would you say?
100%.
How important?
I think whenever I have the opportunity to go somewhere, if I'm invited to a fundraiser or I'm invited to a party, it could even be a pool party, I will always take the invitation, strike conversation. Perhaps they see my watch, they, will ask me about it. I think networking is really, really important. The other thing I think is really important in this business, and I would think for any sales job, is you need to be available. I have a gentleman that he lives on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. 11 o'clock at night, I'll hear a ding on my phone and he has insomnia and he wants to talk about watches. I answer and I say, you know what? That's a great watch. Let me follow up with you tomorrow because it's like 11 o'clock tonight. I think you develop relationships. Relationships is key. It's not even about the sale. It's about the relationship. And I think that's what's made me be able to keep my job this long, right?
Yeah.
And still have value because I have a lot of relationships. And I might not hear from you, Al. You could be my client. I might not hear from you for 2 or 3 years, but you're like, oh yeah, I need a watch for my grandson's graduation. And boom, you call me. Maybe I sent you, I try to keep up with all my clients and Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, that sort of thing, or Happy Hanukkah, whatever it might be. And I think just doing that, even if you just reach out to them once a year, you're in the back of their mind always, and they come back to you.
Well, the key, and folks around the world is listening today. I want to give you guys she gave you guys a big nugget. The key is always, I don't care what business you're in, I don't care network marketing, real estate, watches, whatever you're doing. The key, what she said, was follow up. The money has always been in the follow up. And the person may not talk to her for a year and a half, but think of watches. She thinks of Miss Laurie Holbrook. So here again, you want to be able to make that impression that the first person they think is you out there. So the kids follow. What she say? Halloween? Christmas? Easter? Their birthday, Hanukkah. But whole idea, keep your name in the front of their mind when they think of the object that you're out there that you're selling or that you're sharing with people. I love that part. So when you maintain your relationship with your investors and partners, you kind of answer that. The whole idea, you keep in touch with them with cards and their birthday, especially birthdays. Mm-hmm. You set up, okay.
And I'm old fashioned now. I still handwrite my birthday cards. Now, my father said I should have been a doctor because he can't read my writing, but I do handwrite everybody's birthday card. And I probably do 30 or 40 birthday cards a month. So I have a lot more clients than that, right? But not everybody's giving me their birthday. So then that's when I'll do like the holiday cards, or if I know they celebrate Chinese New Year. Yes, they get a gift from me. They'll get a recognition. So yeah, that part's important. It's not necessarily gifts like, something really elaborate, but it's the thought that counts, right? It's the card. It's remembering that they celebrate those holidays.
But you said something also significant. I want people out around the world to hear. Don't text somebody. Don't do something insensitive. Send them a handwritten card. People don't get that these days. Mm-hmm. That is so personal. That makes that. Let me ask you guys around the world that's listening in. How would you feel if somebody texts you or somebody sent you a handwritten card? Which is more powerful? Quite naturally, a handwritten card. So this is a big tip. Guys, this is how you get in and they're remembering and they think of you first because you did something above and beyond the call of duty. Does that make sense? This is what I call servicing. Service is so important to take care of your clientele. Give me an idea of some of the other strategies you use to build in your loyalty customer base. You said cards or gifts.
Well, I'll invite them to events. So even though I work from home, believe it or not, I do go to the boutique for appointments. So say, Al, you're coming. I know you're coming to Las Vegas. I work out of Vegas. And I'll say, hey, I'll meet you for dinner. I'll meet you for coffee. And we get together. I'll take them to the boutique. Maybe we meet there, have a little champagne. But I invite them to events. If I know that my client's going to be in town and they're a huge Celine Dion fan, I'll try and make it work to take them to Celine Dion. I'm just using her as an example because that's the first that came to mind. But it's about making them feel important. And it's not about, yes, of course, if there's a watch that comes out and I think that they might be interested, I'll let them know. But that's not the first thing I do. The first thing I do is I reach out. Hey, how are you? How's your family? I happen to know your kitty's been sick for a while. How is your cat? Things like that.
Yeah.
A lot. And I tend to remember a lot of this, but I do take notes. And
Thank you. I always tell people, take notes on the person when you walk away. Something about them so you can relate to them.
yes,
When you follow up, be able
100%.
to make it personal. Yeah. How's your cat? And Fido. How's he doing? How's little Johnny doing? Little Susie. That is so important because it takes time that you personalize it and make it feel special, folks. It's so important to make people feel special, especially in today's climate.
In the
You know,
in the notes, Al. So recently, I had a gentleman that wanted to pay. He wanted to split payment, and I couldn't do it. And he said, "But Laurie, I'm going to get these world points where I get to travel. Like I get 365 nights free for the next year." And I'm like, "I'm sorry." He goes, "It's okay. I still want to buy from you, right?" So then when I called to tell him his watch was ready, I said, "Did you ever get those world points?" He's like, "Oh my God, you remembered." Now, yes, I did remember because that stuck with me, but I still had my notes, right?
yep.
And he came back and bought another watch like 3 months later. So being personal like that and just remembering the smallest thing, it could be, oh, how was your trip to Cancun? Or, how's your granddaughter? That sort of thing. Sorry.
It's so important. And folks, you guys, that was a big tip right there. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, that was a big one. That was a big one. Matter of fact, when you come home, that Camus bottle that was open for your client, we Don and I kind of polished that off about a week ago. Good old Camus,
Okay.
because I love Camus.
Yes, I don't think it was going to last till I got home, so I'm glad.
No. Don and I, we went to lunch and then we polished that bottle of Camus off. Trust me, it was delicious. Thank you. Let's talk and move on a little bit. Let's talk about how do you balance work and home and personal life? How do you work balance, life balance with the business and everything? How do you balance that?
So working for a Swiss brand, they kind of demand it that you take time for yourself, that if your hours are from 8 to 5, you work 8 to 5. Now, yes, they understand, like the gentleman, if he calls, you're going to take his call. But for the most part, they encourage that. And, I was in Switzerland over the holidays 2 years ago, and it was a Wednesday afternoon, and all these children were skiing down the slopes. And I turned to the limo driver and I was like, "What's going on here?" And he's like, "Oh, every Wednesday they get let out of school early to go skiing." So I think we should take a little bit of that in the US, right? And not just work ourselves to the bone and balance that. Our kids went to school together. We always had dinner together. And even if I had
Yeah.
to work late, I made sure that they had dinner together. I
Yeah.
thought that was really important,
Yeah.
to do that.
It's so
Go ahead.
it's so important because over in Europe, like even Germany, they close down at 12 o'clock and they go take a nap, or they take what they call a box. They walk. And I thought it was kind of unique because they close down. Unlike Americans, we just money. Work. They have a quality of life that I wish more of us have. Yeah, you're right.
So
I'd like to
so you
thank
do
Miss.
that.
Huh?
No, I was going to say, so that's what you do. You balance, right? You make time for family. You make time for yourself. Trust me, I go out with the girlfriends a couple times a week. That's my little go-to as well, because you can't always be at home. And both my husband and I work from home. So one of us
Yeah.
has to leave every now and then.
Yeah. Keep the marriage solid. There you go.
Yes.
I'd like to thank Sherry on down there in Florida for joining us tonight. Miss Rutherford also for joining us. Hey, I know you went to Europe a couple of years ago because your company sent you there.
Right.
And how was that trip? Can you talk a little bit about your trip there? What did you see?
Sure.
What did you feel? Because you don't see a lot of people on here don't get a chance to be in your shoes tonight. We get to fantasize what it feels like to sell high-end jewelry, and your company sends you to Switzerland and other countries to go to the factories. And tell us a little bit about that, what you can talk about if you can.
Sure. So there's every year, it used to be called SIHH, and now it's called Watches and Wonders. And most of the manufacturers from around the world will go there, set up booths, and it's a couple-day event, a week at least. And you'll go and you'll get to see all your competitors, all the different watches that have been released. And some of the watches, like Van Cleef, become more jewelry. And by the way, I forgot to wear my watch. It's in the other room. But they become more jewelry items. And so you'll see the complications from Cartier, Audemars, Patek, you name it. And so I get to take VICs There's a certain criteria, but they get to go as my guest, and we take very good care of them. We take them to the show. They get to see also the competitors' stuff, right? Because I can't stop them from looking at other booths, but it's all about them getting to see and feel the latest and greatest that just came out. So we went there, and an interesting fact, we started in Switzerland, and then we continued on because one of my really important clients is a very good friend of my husband's as well. So we ended up in Lucerne, and I learned something. I went into the boutique. Did you know that there are more timepieces in Lucerne than there are people in the population?
Wow. I did not know that. I learned something new tonight.
More watches per capita than the people. And I found that fascinating also because Lucerne's small. It's not a very big, place to live. But yeah, it's cool to get to do that because I grew up a Midwest girl. I didn't come from money, right? We were middle income. And if walking into the job that I have now, in the beginning, it was a teeny bit intimidating. But then I just had to look at it as a person's a person, a watch is a watch, and it doesn't matter what the price is. It kind of had to bring it down like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know your husband went with you to the trip, and you took clients. Yeah. So what time next year should I block out on my schedule to go?
Well, Al, we got to talk. I don't see one of my watches on your wrist yet.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you have those down moments, how do you deal with the down moments, the down days? How do you, with doubts? Oh. I know you're not very much doubt, or how do you deal with that? Had a watch supposed to be sold, a one or two, and then fell out. How do you deal with that?
That's hard. That can get to you, right? I mean, you still have bills to pay, you still have family. And I had a guy recently who he decided he wanted 3 watches, and then he decided to return them all, and it was the cost of almost $100,000. And I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to take that hit next month. So we do take it back as long as they're not worn. But then it was a matter of, okay, that's fine. We'll take it back. He ended up buying it, again, more. But you can't count. I guess the answer is you can't spend the money before it comes in. My father taught me that. So if I make X amount of commission, it comes in next month. Don't spend it before you have it, because that commission can go just as fast as it came, right? They can change their mind within 30 days. But all of a sudden, if I don't see my numbers are going up and I'm like, oh, I got to make X amount this month. If I let it get to me, my sales continue to plummet. Mm-hmm. So then this is what I do. I have a gratitude journal, and I'll say, okay, I'm thankful for Mr. Al's last purchase. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. And then on top of that, I'll go to my last people who bought, and I'll handwrite thank yous. And the minute I come from that gratitude place, I promise you, my sales go back up.
So attitude of gratitude, folks. You hear that? So some of you out there, you don't know what to do. You go into depression or you get depressed. What she talked about? She turned around. Let me go through the list of people, send them a little handwritten note. Thank you. And all of a sudden, everything turns around. So you got to plant those seeds out there when you don't feel like it. I love this part because this is what a lot of us need to understand, because it's not going all the time. I mean, one month you got a big sales going. It's like a real estate person. They got a big commission coming, and all of a sudden the deal falls out of escrow. Psychologically, a lot of people already spent the money. But I love what our dad gave her the insight. Don't spend it yet until you get it. Don't even think about it until you get it. That right there tonight was a big plus, a big nugget right there. That was powerful. That was powerful. Thank you. Now, I know you're not in a crowded market per se, because there's a couple other high-end watch places and sells high-end watches. But even though it's high-end, how do you stand out in a crowded, I can't say a crowded industry, but a unique industry? Well, how do you stand out in that? What would you say?
So the brand that I work for is very well respected. They've been around since 1833.
Yeah.
And I think just having that, as your background, as the laid foundation really, really helps. That makes you stand out. The other thing that I think makes you stand out is I will never lie to a client. I will never mislead you. And I will never say, oh yeah, I can get that for you, Al. And then 2 weeks later say, I can't. Now, maybe I went off on another tangent, but I think this is huge. I think integrity, being honest, and not misleading makes you so successful. I love this Destiny International. Anyways.
Integrity, yeah.
Integrity, yes, 100%. And I think that's what makes the brand stand out. That's what makes a sales associate and ambassador stand out is integrity, follow through. Sometimes I got to give clients bad news. And, you think, well, what can be bad news, in the watch business? Well, maybe I can't deliver that watch that I thought I could, that I took your deposit for, that now somewhere someone, did the math wrong and we don't have enough to fulfill the order. Very rare does it happen, but just think if I have to come to you and say that, that's heartbreaking for both of us.
Yeah, it is. And because your honesty, they probably say, well, let's see, what's next on my dream list of watches?
Right. And it hurts. I've lost clients in the middle of, I had just brought a client a $450,000 watch that he was acquiring. I went and showed it to him. I traveled to Texas and I came home, and a week later I get a phone call, and I'm taking him and his wife, by the way, to the film festival in Venice. And a week later I get a phone call, and it's his brother telling me he passed away. Oh my God. I don't think I ever cried so hard in my life, because this guy had 10 things on his bucket list, and this was number 10. And his family didn't know he had saved for 10 years for this timepiece. So when he passed, of course we gave his money back, right? I'm not going to keep his money. He's gone. His family ended up with $450,000 they didn't even know that they had. And so that it can be sad too, because I get really close to my clients.
Yeah.
And yeah, that can be hard.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question.
Where did that come from?
Wow, 450,000. I know a couple of people out there would probably say they're thinking, I could have send the watch to no. But that's integrity. That's amazing. So what's next for your business? What's exciting plans and projects that you're working on now?
Oh, that's interesting. So I dabble in other businesses, Al. I love skincare. I'm kind of venturing into a Fiji skincare line. But this is my, daily. I plan on going to Switzerland here soon again, with another client, and continuing education and learning about the other brands too, to see what they have to offer. Because these guys are smart, and you have to be smart. Now, you don't have to know every single thing about every single watch. And this goes for any industry that you're in, because I didn't know a watch at all when I started in this business. Okay. But if I have clients that come to me and ask me what's caliber this and Patex's watch, and then they want to know what caliber this and Audemars watch, I have to at least be able to compare and know what they are. So education is key. So You asked what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue my education. My company is really great about educating us constantly. Keep up my storytelling. Storytelling is really important in sales too. Knowing like where the product came from or how the company came about. And yeah, just keep trying to go to places like Switzerland and New York.
There you go. So keep educating yourself, folks. Go to your conventions or whatever to keep educating yourself. Go to whatever you need to keep. It's called continual education. Even in real estate, even though you got a broker's license, a sales license, you got to continue your education, because things change
100%.
constantly, all the time. And my next question, leading down that road, is how do you see your industry evolving in the next 5 or 10 years? And we've got one or two more questions. We'll button it up here.
No, I'm sorry. Say it again. You moved. Unmuted my mic.
How do you see your industry evolving in the next 5 or 10 years?
So it's a little scary right now. Not going to get into politics, but there's that tariff issue right now. It hasn't affected us. I'm hoping it doesn't affect us, because I think if it doesn't, I think we'll stay like we are and we'll continue to grow. The young people are getting more and more into timepieces and into watches. So that's really helpful. We have boys the same age. They're 22 and I have a 31-year-old. They're not so much into the jewelry and timepieces, but they're becoming more educated about it, right? I tell my boys, listen, if you want to be recognized in a room, you want to wear one of our timepieces, especially sitting with a board of directors or closing a big deal. My son right now is somewhere closing a big deal and he's wearing my timepiece because it speaks volumes. It does still have to do a little bit with clout. But I see the industry continuing to go up. Remember when smartwatches came out, Al?
Yeah.
People came to me and said, "Oh my gosh, this is going to ruin your business." I'm like, "No, people can wear a smartwatch here and they wear mine over here. Like, it's no big deal."
Well, you're in a whole different class of people that buy. They don't understand. That's, we're not talking about the watches for the masses. So we're talking about certain. It's called, at that level, it's called timepieces, not a watch. It's a timepiece.
Right.
When I used to wear suits and ties coming through younger, I would say, I made sure I had a nice watch on, a nice French cuff. All my shirts are French cuff. I have diamond cuff links, and I always made sure. My mentor told me, make sure you buy a tie that goes across your heart, because that's a signal to another wealthy person. And they in refining school, most people ties. If you look at your ties, guys, most of your ties go this way.
Really?
95% of the ties go this way. Only 5% of the ties go across your heart. When my mentor told me that, I went home and looked at all my ties, only had 2 with that way. The rest I gave to Goodwill, because it's a signal.
Wow.
Only 1% to 2% of ties go across your heart. So from that
So you
moment
mean
on,
the stripes? You mean the
the
stripes?
stripes going, the stripes, yeah. The stripes going this way. And I made sure that, because that's a signal of a refinery. It's a signal to a wealthy person. Most guys' ties with stripes go this way. And I got rid of all of it. And here's another thing. These ties cost a little bit more than these ties. And there's a reason why. It's a difference in a watch and a difference in a timepiece.
Exactly. They are timepieces, right?
So tonight we're educating you to a different level, and hope you guys all get the timepieces you choose and to have. So in closing, let's ask this question. What do you think about if somebody wanted to start in the high-end watch? What kind of advice, a business, what kind of advice would you give somebody looking at possibly wanting to break into that industry? It's like breaking through the clouds. It could be raining down here. You break through the clouds. The sunlight is going up there. So somebody want to break in that industry. What kind of advice would you give a person?
You mean to buy a timepiece?
Well, yeah, or they might want to go in the industry. Let's look at both of those. A, buy a timepiece, and B, maybe start and get in that industry like you are.
Sure. So if you're thinking about acquiring a timepiece, I would suggest you do a manual or an automatic and do not do a quartz. Quartz have about a 25-year shelf life. Most people don't know that. The movement has to be changed out. When it's manual and mechanical, those are going to last forever and ever and ever. Getting into the business, sometimes it's who you know. I got lucky. There just happened to be a job. My girlfriend worked at the Wynn. I was looking for jewelry. They turned me on to the watches. Voila. If you want to get into the timepiece business, the watch business, it's a fun industry to get into. Just educate yourself and take a chance. I think we talked about this before. I didn't know timepieces. And when they interviewed me, I said, I'll figure it out. I know how to sell. So if you know how to sell one thing, you can sell another.
And then educate yourself. So not only selling, but educate yourself. I remember
there's
my first rope.
Go ahead.
No, ladies first.
There's a lot of podcasts out there that'll educate you. There's Houdinki. Houdinki is a great website you can go on. I love those guys. And they weren't anything like 8 years ago, and now they're like everything. And people go to them and look at their advice. So there's a lot of different places where you can go online and learn and, educate yourself. And then if you like it that much, and I would say go for it. Go to a local jewelry store and ask if they need a salesperson and kind of go from there.
There you go. I've got a friend that's got 12 jewelry stores here in Vegas. But anyway, I never forget my first watch, most expensive watch. My first expensive watch, for me it was a Rolex. I paid $2,500 and I was like the third owner, and I bought it in San Francisco at the Jewelry Mart, because they resell them. And I thought, oh my God, $2,500, like wow. And then I went up the scale, and I remember buying another watch at $25,000, and then another one more expensive than that one. And dummy me, I was just so funny. I was so dumb at the time. I didn't know that it was self-winding, and I went in, it was like it wasn't working. And I remember I was in my little SL Mercedes, and I went in Fair Oaks, Sacramento, California, and went to the jewelry store, and I said, I need a battery for my Rolex. I went in on a joke, and the guy looked at me like, sir, I said, yes, I need a battery for my Rolex, and it's not working. He took my watch. He says, sir, they don't have battery. It's self-winding. I felt about that tall going out the store. What a goofy guy I was. But hey, I had a nice Rolex. I didn't know no different.
You know what, Al? That happens all the time. So I've been doing this a really, really long time. I'm on the customer service side as well, right? And people will say, my watch is broken. And the first thing I say to them is, did you wind it? And they go, what? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but did you wind it? I'm just asking. Best practice is you want to wind your watch. One wind is 1 hour. So 24 times a day. If it holds a 40-hour power reserve, you want to wind it 40 times. And they're like, nobody told us that. And I want to go back to the sales associate, who sold it and say, why didn't you tell them? And they'll go like this. And I'm like, don't shake the watch.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, these are they're not that delicate, but they are delicate if you're going to start shaking them. I said it's kind of like giving a car gas. You're just not going to give it, this much gas. You're going to fill the tank. You have to fill the watch's tank, right? You have to wind. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a watch winder now. I got a nice elaborate watch winder for about 8 watches, and I tell you what, I mean, it keeps it going because
okay,
if you stop.
Hold on. Would you run your car 24/7?
Well, here's what I do. I take them the ones I want to use. I don't put them all in there, but the ones I want to use this week, I put in there and then I take them out. And the other one's sitting in another one that's just a watch holder.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know you don't want to keep going on. No,
otherwise, you're going to wear that watch out sooner than you have to because you're winding it and running it, and
Yeah. Well, listen, we appreciate you today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can, leave a comment below if you can. This has been a great one. And I just want to uplift everybody in the way to think, because this channel is here to help you, educate you on every aspect of all things business. And Miss Laurie Holbrook came in and talked about high-end watches. She talked about her 13 years involved in it. She talked about her husband after 35 years of marriage. He'll be on next week, so make sure you tune in. And the comments, leave a comment below. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you'll be alerted when the next one comes out, which will be next week. And also, if you can, send this out to several people and watch a blessing come back to you. And with that said, is there anything you want to say in closing?
Me?
Yes.
I just want to thank everybody that came on today. Thank you for your wonderful comments. It's so much fun to read. And people agree with integrity, and, they think you're top shelf, Mr. Thomas. So
thank you.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're welcome, dude. And I'll see you when you get back to Vegas. And I'm sure I'll see your husband Saturday. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining All Things Business. This has been a nice night tonight. This is season 4, episode 3. Just hang in there with us. Take care. God bless. And don't forget, leave a comment below and hit the like button. Thank you so much. God bless. And as always, we'll see you at the top. We'll see you at the top. God bless.
Thank you.